G'day dudes, today we have Maximo, one of my favourite PlayStation 2 hack and slash platformers, developed by Capcom and released in 2001, based off of the Ghosts and Goblins universe. And like always, this is full of spoilers because I want to share as many aspects of my experience as possible. This was a time when PlayStation 2 had so many great games it was hard to count. You had Ratchet & Clank, Kingdom Hearts, Jak and Daxter, Klonoa, Psychonauts, Sly Raccoon, just a ridiculous amount of games. So I bought this rugged copy of Maximo for $32 back in 2004. And I haven't really played it since. I've been meaning to play it for like a good decade. So I think it's about time I play it. And I might as well give it a fair review at the same time. You play as Maximo, a hero that's been killed by King Achille for trying to save the princess. The Grim Reaper brings you back to life with a deal that you're to kill King Achille since he's bringing the dead back to life, taking the Grim Reaper out of a job. You're to seek the Sorcerer's Council, which only appears after you beat the first boss. The controls are pretty basic: directional running with the joystick, X to jump, square to slash and interact, circle to throw a shield, triangle for overhead slash and stab, then we have R2 for shield block, L2 for kneel, R1 for overhead look over Maximo's shoulders, L1 to position the camera behind Maximo to try and find a good angle, and then select for the abilities menu and start for the general menu. All shown in the trusty Maximo game manual. Legendary. So here we go. Off the bat, there's things you need to remember when fighting enemies, when moving around levels, and when accepting certain upgrades, because certain upgrades can override others. All these things combined can cause havoc on your playthrough. For instance, treasure chests and monsters, they can both give you crons, which are coins that you can spend on temporary upgrades, but every now and then the chest will turn into a monster and it will chomp you. So you need to open the chest and stand back just in case it attacks. You learn this immediately, as one of the first chests you run into gets you good. You also learn that you need to deal with all enemies differently. For instance, you can only damage the monster chest when their mouth is open and attacking you. When it's shut and still running at you, you can't damage it. You're constantly playing with the camera angles too, trying to see if an enemy is coming or throwing something at you. One thing that took me way too long to realise is that I don't need to kill every enemy in every level. I have a higher chance of taking damage and getting nothing but crons in return. At the end of the level, you need to break a glowing altar. You'll be surrounded by a magical aura that will stay until all the enemies around it have been slain. This is where you usually take the most damage at the end of the level, and have to be super careful until you can find a health potion or armor. After completing a level, you're thrown back into the hub world of that particular biome with the exact health and armor that you finished the level with. You're never given anything for free in Maximo, you have to earn everything that you have. I entered level 2, which I didn't really know was the hub world for this set of levels, and hooked a left. Confusingly, it took me to level 5, which I didn't know until I was already in the level. Not really knowing if I missed anything. Later on though, it did take me 2, 3 and 4. Iron keys are collected for iron chests and doors. You can carry as many as you can find, and they're super useful as iron chests don't deceive you and they can't attack you. There's also gold keys that are used for special doors, usually at the end of a section or level, especially near the end of the game. The entire game revolves around different power-ups, both permanent and temporary. You're only allotted a certain amount of slots that you can interchange different spells within. So when you die, you get to keep those ones that you've selected, and the rest fall to the wayside. But while you're alive, all the abilities you own are active. Let's talk health. When you die, you're resurrected with 1 set of armor, so you have 2 health bars. The maximum is 3 health bars and 4 near the end of the game. The only way to do this is to take a bugger all damage through your playthrough and hope that you keep finding health potions to restore the damage that you've taken. When you've maxed out your armor, collecting another armor set will just fill your HP and give you a temporary invincibility as a reward for avoiding damage. Pretty cool. Fairies are collected through little shrines that sparkle blue, and look different in each of the 5 biomes. Gain enough and the Grim Reaper will give you another continue token for when you run out of lives. Checkpoints are also used by striking down on a patch of dirt that looks exactly like a traditional checkpoint that we've come to know and love. Maximo is ruthless with how temporary everything can be. If you die, you lose all of your power-ups that aren't equipped, you lose your armor, you can even lose your shield if you use all of its power by throwing or blocking. Luckily, all these things can be picked up in game. They're just scarce. And as far as shields and power-ups, they can be picked up randomly by enemy drops or generally brought from an altar. Crows also steal your crons. If I knew they were impossible to hit due to their incredible dexterity, I wouldn't have even bothered. But I got the bastard in the end, and my crons died with him. Part of me wishes the boss fights were a lot harder, with phases, as the first boss, Ghastly Gus, while looking intimidating, takes no more than a shield throw, a downward strike, and then a front stab performed 3 times, and taking all of about 45 seconds to complete, and then he's dead. Funnily enough, playing Maximo on emulator, the second boss of Boko Labas, was bugged, taking me 10 minutes to complete the boss because of all the lag, making dodging his attacks super easy. Here's a little bit of a little tasty sample for you dudes. The third boss is Captain Cadaver. You throw him off balance by throwing your shield at him, causing Mr. Cadaver to become trapped in a drain. You then attack his wooden leg, somehow damaging his very being, as if that cylindrical piece of wood houses his soul. This boss, like the rest of them, has one phase, bringing nothing new to the table, making it very easy for you to figure out all of his quirks. Funny thing is, the L2 button's only used once in the entire game, and it's to attack Captain Cadaver's leg, really. There's also another part where you can dodge razors, you can crouch, but you don't really need to, you can just jump over them, or take damage. So the only time you really need to use it is during this one boss.
Get some!
The fourth boss is Lord Glutterscum. There's also just one phase to this boss, which is familiar, and similar to all these bosses, they just throw things at you that are easily dodged, and then they open themselves up for an attack. Easy as. After you complete a boss, you're given the choice of 3 things from your fairy mate of the Sorcerer's Council. Full armor, one of her kisses as a useless ability that you also need to keep in your active ability slot, or a save. I read in the manual that if you save all 4 of her kisses, one from every boss, you're rewarded with a surprise at the end of the game. So I did just that. The downside is taking up 4 useful slots with 4 useless items. Results at the end of the video. They're not good. There's also only one sword, and you can never lose your sword, but you can find temporarily upgrades for it to improve the strength of regular attacks at the cost of sword power. So you can't keep them, but they do help if you can find them. The fire sword power up is the first you get, but it's not the most powerful, so further on in the game, if you find a purple upgrade or a yellow upgrade and accidentally pick up a fire upgrade, you've done goofed because it overwrites your current upgrade. The crons are helpful for when you find a shrine. You can stand near them and they usually tell you what you can buy from them. Armor, gold shields, and a question mark which could mean anything. At one point I brought some boxes for 350 crons to later find out that they do nothing. All the controls are fairly responsive, and I found it hard to blame Maximo's movement for any of my misfortunes. The double jump feature that you start with is adventurous as the movement abilities get. There's things you pick up along the way, such as great area effect attacks that rain down fireballs all around you, great for clearing the waves at the end of the level, and it looks super sick. Majority of the game relies on your ability to remember how to kill each enemy without taking too much damage. When writing this review, I said that environmental factors were not a huge part of taking damage in any level, but I take this back when looking at the footage. There's sections in the first map that are clearly marked as disturbed soil. Zombies grab at your legs and then they damage you. In other levels we have swamps with crocodiles, water to drown in, and plenty of jumping platforms. In the later levels, swinging pendulums and buzzsaws. All that are fairly easy to avoid. Although combined with smaller areas to fight within, creates a bit of chaos that sometimes causes you to take heavy damage while trying to figure out what will work best with what enemy and navigating the hazardous environment. The combination of enemies is what's challenging. Sometimes you'll fight melee monsters while having bombs thrown at you. Luckily there's an invincibility frame for about 1 second after you take damage, which gives you enough time to evaluate the situation, and from my experience, every scenario felt fair, and completely up to me how I dealt with it. After blasting through all 28 levels, the last has you fighting the big boss man, King Achille. Now this one has 3 phases, the only boss to be a little challenging. The first is avoiding a purple head he summoned that throws out little explosive heads, while it shoots a beam from its eyes, and you also have to avoid the evil king's shield. After you wait long enough, it'll all disappear and the king will be open for an attack. Do this until the king is at half HP, and then phase 2 commences. This one, an electrical circuit appears that powers the evil king to become a huge monster of electricity, and walks towards you fairly quickly. All you need to do is destroy the circuit and then smash the king. He does this until he runs out of magic and starts to try and melee you. And that being the last phase of the fight is incredibly easy. And that's the end of the game. Or is it? Do you remember the princess you were trying to save, Sophia?
You told me Maximo...
Silence!
That's enough, Achilles!
She gains all of the king's power and turns into what looks like a Zelda boss. She's a baddie all along.
What happened to Achilles?
Gone.
Excellent.
Unfortunately, This is the easiest boss in the game. You don't even need to be facing the boss. It runs around in a dark room and eventually runs at you to attack, and your camera will snap to her. All you do is jump and slash. She'll take damage and run away. Do this 6 times and she's dead. Seriously, look at this. Oh yeah, after all that, I collected all 4 of Sophia's kisses from each boss and didn't choose armor or save, and awaited my surprise. I didn't find anything, so I looked online. I found this. Yeah, it's a gallery of poor quality JPEGs of every character and enemy in the game. Colossal waste of time. I also found out if you master the game at 100%, all you get is a bonus level that gives you nothing, so I'm not doing that. Overall though, I did enjoy my Maximo replay. It was awesome. There's a sequel I might get around to one day. Would be cool to do a comparison, so there's always that on the table. If Maximo looks like fun to you, that's because it is fun. And if you enjoy the hassle of playing PS2 games in 2019, you should probably see if you can pick it up somewhere. It's also available as a PS3 classic, even though PlayStation 3 is quite old now as well. I still think Maximo holds up and is worthy of critical acclaim that it had at the time. My only issues are small. The camera can be pretty fussy to navigate. The bosses being too simple is another one. And the hub world being a bit of a mess. So that's all really. I give Maximo on PlayStation 2 8 out of 10 Gus leg twitches. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time for my next review. And if you like this, subscribe and look at the description below so you can see all the other shit. Thank you! Have a good day.